Now it's time to do the Hebrew alphabet in order. And so we'll start at the very beginning with the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, which is Aleph. Aleph is not the letter A. It's the letter, that's right, it's a glottal stop. It really doesn't make a sound. It stops the sound. So the generic word for God, a God, is Elohim. And that little Elohim at the beginning is the Aleph. It's a glottal stop. We don't have a letter like this in English, but it's the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Aleph. Okay, the second letter of the Hebrew alphabet, thankfully, is like the second letter of the English alphabet. It's Bet, alpha, Bet. And so it isn't written twice, although Barney, years ago, Barney was a purple dinosaur children's show. He did the Hebrew alphabet in a song once. It went Aleph, Bet, Vet. So you can find it on YouTube if you want to look it up. But he does the Bet with the dot in it as Bet, and the Bet without the dot in it called Vet. What are you talking about, Ken? You're confusing me. Well, first of all, the dot is technically called a Dagesh. You don't need to know that now. There'll be another video on Dageshes and other things. But basically, when the Bet has a dot in it, it's pronounced ba. When the Bet does not have a dot in it, it's pronounced va. So the second letter of the Hebrew alphabet is Bet. Aleph, Bet. All right? By the way, there are 6 letters that do this dot thing, and they're called the Begad Kafat letters. Well, remember, Hebrew goes from right to left. So this is Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Caph, Pei, and Tav. These 6 letters can have a dot or not have a dot in this particular way. And when they have the Dagesh, they are pronounced one way. And in older Hebrew, when they didn't have the Dagesh, they were pronounced a different way. Now, I'm going to pronounce most of these exactly the same, whether they have the dot or not. Now, the Bet, I'm going to do differently. So I'm going to go B if it has the dot and V if it doesn't. I'm going to pronounce the Gimel the same, the Dalet the same, the Caph the same. Now, the Pei, I'm going to pronounce it as P if it has the dot and F if it doesn't. More on that in a second. But these 6 letters are called Begad Kafat letters, and basically we've taken the B, G, D, K, P, T, and made an acronym out of it so that we can remember it, Begad Kafat. These are the letters that do this thing with the sound. Again, I'll stop myself right there. More on Dageshes in a later video. All right, so Aleph, Bet, Gimel. So Gimel is one of those that can have the dot or not have the dot. It can have the Dagesh or not have the Dagesh. I'm going to pronounce them exactly the same. I'm going to pronounce this as G, and I'm going to pronounce this one as G. That's kind of easy, isn't it? So Aleph, Bet, Gimel. By the way, notice that the third letter of the Hebrew alphabet is not C. Hebrew doesn't have a C. It's G, Gimel. So it's almost like it goes B, G. Again, it's not English. It's Hebrew. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet. Dalet is another Begad Kafat letter. It can have the dot, the Dagesh, or it cannot have the Dagesh, but it's D. When it has the Dagesh, it's definitely pronounced D. It used to be pronounced the if it didn't have the Dagesh, but I'm going to pronounce all Dalets as D. All right. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey. What the hey? It's a hey. This is a hey. It's an H. And it's pronounced H. Well, isn't that special? I'll stop myself from telling you more details about the hey. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav. Used to be called Wow. So you still will hear some people pronounce it W and some people pronounce it V. I'm going to go with the modern Hebrew pronunciation and pronounce it V. It's basically a stick up and down. More on it to come. Well, okay, I can't help myself. At the beginning of a word, it's and. All right. So Vav, Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin. Zayin's a lot like a Vav, except it's got a little hat on it, right? And I have a different video on how to write them in English if you want to write some Hebrew. All right? So this is a Z sound. Z. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin. Chet, Chet. Notice that it has a dot under it in transliteration. Well, that's new. I've never seen that before. If you look at different Bibles of Psalm 119 is an alphabetic psalm. And so a few verses all begin with an Aleph, and then a few verses all begin with a Bet, and a few verses all begin with a Gimel. And the headings, sometimes a Bible will put the letter of the alphabet for each section. And sometimes this is C-H-E-T, but it's not Chet. Hebrew does not have a ch sound as I'm teaching it. So this is a Chet. It's a ha. It's like ich in German or lach in Scottish. Chet. Yeah, sounds like you got something in your throat there. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet. Okay, this is Tet. And you can see that if we pronounce it properly, it's ta, like certain Indian languages, from India, I mean, have a ta kind of sound to them. And Hebrew has a ta sound. I'm talking to you. I will not work that hard when I pronounce Hebrew. I'm sorry to say for you, but it's transliterated as a T with a dot under it, and it is ta. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yod. Yod is this is an apostrophe looking thing. It's a Y, and it's a jot. Remember, jot and tittle. More on that as we continue to learn the Hebrew language. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yod, Caph. Okay, why? What? I've got 3 there. I'm seeing triples. Where did all that come from? Well, I have it here because Caph is not only a Begad Kafat letter, it can take the Dagesh or not take the Dagesh, and I'm going to pronounce them both the same. Ka. So this is the Caph with the Dagesh, and this is the Caph without a Dagesh, but there's something even, now just to make things, the plot thickens, to make things even more interesting, let's have a different final form for a Caph than the initial and middle forms for a Caph. So when Caph appears at the end of a word, it's going to look differently. It's almost like you took this down here and you pulled it down. You know, we'll find that with these final letters. A lot of times it's like you take it and you pull it down below the line. If there was a line here, you know, it goes below the line. See my video on how to write them. So this is a final Caph. As I sang in the other video, it's the final Caph down. Anyway, so this is Begad Kafat letter, and it has a final form. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Tet, Yod, Caph, Lamed. Lamed goes above the line. So this is the only letter in Hebrew that goes above the line. It's got a little Elvis flick there. I'm going to win this race. And it's pronounced ul. In fact, you'll see K-L-M-N. Nice to have a section of the alphabet that goes like English. So this is Lamed. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yod, Caph, Lamed, Mem. So Mem is M. And it has one form when it's at the beginning or the middle of a word, and it has a different form when it's at the end of a word. You can almost put a smiley face in there, couldn't you? I draw this like a square, frankly. But initial or medial, mem, and final, mem. So see my advice on how to write it, on some thoughts on how to remember mem. Basically, I suggest he's like a Viking. Anyway, mem. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yod, Caph, Lamed, Mem, Nun. This is not a nun, but this is nun. This is an N. And don't extend it out too far because then you would confuse it with a Caph. But this is an N, and it has a final form as well. We grab this and pull it down. This is the final Nun, and this is an initial or medial Nun. So we've got an N. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yod, Caph, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samech. This looks like me. I've got a flick on my hair. Put a smiley face in there too, couldn't you? I think it's an apple with a flick, but it's an S. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yod, Caph, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samech, Ayin. Ayin is even more than the Aleph. If the Aleph is a light glottal stop, the Ayin, as my Hebrew professor once said, is the sound of incipient vomiting. Ayin. That's a little exaggerated, but Ayin. So it's a strong glottal stop. Kind of looks like a Y, doesn't it? Except the Y comes together at the bottom here. Ayin, come together right now. Okay. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yod, Caph, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samech, Ayin, Pei. Oh, here's another one that does double duty. It's a Begad Kafat letter. Can have the Dagesh or not have the Dagesh. And it also has a final form, a final Pei. So I do pronounce this differently when it has the Dagesh and when it doesn't have the Dagesh. When it does have the Dagesh, I pronounce it P. When it doesn't have the Dagesh, I pronounce it F. So P, F. And the name of the letter is pay. And then if you grab it and pull it down for the final form, you've got a final pay. There you have it. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, He, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yod, Caph, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samech, Ayin, Pei, Tzadi. So Tzadi is our last letter that has a different final form than it has initial and medial form. It is pronounced t, ts sound, and this is the way we transliterate it with a s with a dot under it. T, 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 t. So this is, again, the initial and medial form of Tzadi. This is the way it looks. You pull it down, and you've got the final Tzadi. By the way, be sure to pause this video to work on them. See if you can know the name before you even, before I tell you. Pause the tape. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, He, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yod, Caph, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Mem, sorry, let me start again. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, He, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yod, Caph, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samech, Ayin, Pei, Tzadi, Qof. This is transliterated with a Q, but it's a ka, roof the mouth, ka. And this one, like if the lamed goes above the line, this is the only one that in its normal form goes below the line, Qof. And we translate it with a Q. It's not exactly a Q, but ka. So, Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, He, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yod, Caph, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samech, Ayin, Pei, Tzadi, Qof, Resh. This is the R. That's an easy right. It's just a little curve there. So, Resh. So this is the R. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, He, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yod, Caph, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samech, Ayin, Pei, Tzadi, Qof, Resh, Sheen. So the next two letters, Sheen and Seen, are basically boing, 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 boing. Oh, that's fun. Okay, so basically it's a pitchfork with a dot on the right and a pitchfork with a dot on the left. Sheen and Seen. Now, with the dot on the right, it's sh. It's a sh sound, and with the dot on the left, it's a s. So sh, s, sh, s, sh, s. Sheen, seen, sheen, seen, sheen, seen. I feel like I'm playing beep, 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 one of those old Atari games. Anyway, never mind. So Sheen, and it's sh sound, and then seen is s sound. So Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, He, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yod, Caph, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samech, Ayin, Pei, Tzadi, Qof, Sheen, Resh, Sheen, Seen, Tav. Tav's the last letter. So Tav is the last of the Bagad Kafat letters. It can have the Dagesh, not have the Dagesh. I'm going to pronounce them both as T. It used to be that this was pronounced Th. So T, Th. I'm not going to do that. So with the Dagesh, without the Dagesh, I'm going to pronounce it the same. But it's Tav and it's T. I know it's a little weird for the alphabet to end with a T instead of with something else like a Zayin, Z. That's earlier on. Well, but it's not English, right? And they came before us. They can do what they want. But that's then all of the letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Let's see if I can do it. I'm sure I can't. But here it is. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, He, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yod, Caph, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samech, Ayin, Pei, Tzadi, Qof, Resh, Sheen, Seen, Tav. And this has been the Hebrew alphabet.